Hello, my name is Madeline Serna Marmol, and I'm the Associate Superintendent for Equity, Instruction, Innovation, and Support for the Albuquerque Public Schools. As APS staff, you will be facing many new and unique challenges for the coming school year. The current ever-changing climate can impact your well-being and create additional stress. It is important to have patience, recognize physical and emotional warnings, engage in positive activities, create a sense of safety, and engage in discussions to process these events. There will be a need to address the significant social and emotional toll this crisis has taken on our community. Regardless of the instructional model employed at the start of the school year, staff members might experience anxiety and apprehension, and it is vital that we respond and work together in a positive and supportive manner. Today, we begin to understand the trauma induced by COVID-19 and how to support and respond to distressed members of our school communities from the founder and CEO of Southwest Family Guidance Center, Dr. Craig Pierce. Founded in 2004, Southwest Family Guidance Center serves children, adolescents, and families in 7 counties throughout New Mexico. As the director of the Institute, he and our training team provide extensive training to clinicians, educators, New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Division, CYFD, and other partnering stakeholders. He is co-author of our Thriving Kids and Thriving Students curriculum and programs offered to CYFD and school districts throughout New Mexico. Dr. Pierce comes with over 40 years of experience as a clinical counselor, family therapist, school counselor, and school psychologist. He is a fellow of the American Psychotherapy Association, a clinical fellow of the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, and a board-certified PTSD clinician by the American Psychotherapy Association. He is recognized as a leading expert in trauma-informed treatment and author of multiple books on effective parenting.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to partner with the district in meeting the challenges we're facing in our school year 2021. Our goal this year is to have thriving students in spite of all the challenges and some of the adversity that we're facing. We want our students this year to come out and our staff to come out not only surviving it, but actually coming out thriving. So again, I'm Craig Pierce, and I'm from Southwest Family Guidance Center. And the work I'm going to be sharing with you today is from our Thriving Students program, which in a nutshell is a trauma-informed program focusing on social emotional learning for all students and for staff, fostering school positive climate and culture. So I'm here today because I was invited to help support the staff. APS is here to support you, and they get it, that as leaders, the district wants to support you in what we're facing. They get it, what you're facing. They don't quite know how to attend to what we're facing, and today's presentation is really just to open the conversation as to what is it that all staff, all educators are needing in the way of support, whether it be from their leader in their school or from the district, or what do our students need from us as their leaders. So that's what I'm here for today, and let's start with talking about the journey that we've been taking so far. So we ended our school year last year very abruptly, as you well know, really with kind of a shock, because we really had no warning of what was coming, or very little. So we didn't complete the school year. We did the best we could to finish it out. Students didn't get to say goodbye. Teachers didn't get to have the rituals and routines of wrapping up their school year with students. And we left feeling pretty incomplete and everything that went with that. So we did the best we could to get through that. And now we're facing, in the summer, a lot of uncertainty. I think when we stopped in the spring, we sort of had the idea everything would be good and we'd be back to business in the fall, just like normal. But that has not happened. And now we are facing school year 2020, still in the middle of a pandemic and everything that that means for us. So here we are facing the year, having to adapt to a great deal of adversity. And I think the number one adversity that I identify and that I hear in feedback that I get is the uncertainty. From day to day, maybe even moment to moment, we don't know what's going to be happening as we start the school year. As I'm presenting this, as of this recording, we still don't know whether we're going to be online, hybrid version, and one to the other, we don't know. So we're facing uncertainty, which is a very hard thing on every level to face. We have a lot of fear and we have a lot of worry. We have fear about our own health risks, our loved ones, fear and worry for our students' well-being and health, and certainly as the staff coming back, our own safety and well-being and health risks. We're really worried and concerned for our students who will be starting probably online or at least hybrid, and what that's going to mean in the way of disparity for them and the way of regression socially, emotionally, and academically. So we have a lot of fear and worry about that. Make no mistake that what we're going through is nothing short of the stages and the experience of grief and loss. I won't go into all that, but we are grieving what was, what isn't anymore, what we're losing, or the potential of what we're losing. We feel sad. We feel relentless anxiety in a way that doesn't stop. So as we face the school year, we are definitely going into a storm, and a wave is going to hit us. So I love this quote, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. We cannot start this school year without being changed. We will be changed by this school year. The question is, how will we be changed? And for all the loss of control that we have, that COVID is in control, or that we feel other people are making decisions, whatever level of lack of control that you feel, that we feel, we do have an absolute ability to affect how we're going to be coming out of this. Definitely, it is not business as usual. It is business upside down. So where do we begin with an upside down school year? Brene Brown reminds us that who we are is how we lead. I want to really emphasize everybody is a leader. We have district leaders, we have school site leaders, we have the leaders of our state, and they're here to support us at the school level, whatever level we are as educators. But make no mistake again, that as teachers, as therapists, as cafeteria people, the bus driver that gets students to school, whoever it is, whatever role you are playing in that school, you are a leader because we are leading our students. And they are looking to us this year and going to ask, how are we showing up? So we need to think about, how is it first and foremost are we going to show up? Are we showing up feeling confident with some strength that we can do this, that we can see us, ourselves and our students and families through this school year and come out thriving? Or are we starting it depleted? I think I don't need to say what it's going to be like if we're starting out the school year depleted. So let's talk about how we can start our school year thinking about our own resilience and then supporting the resilience of our students. So let's talk about resiliency. What is it? Because that's the focus that we need to keep. So resilience is the ability to encounter adversity and bounce back stronger than before, supporting us in fulfilling our purpose. This year, as an educator, whatever level you're on, I think the feeling of we are part of something bigger than ourselves is more true than ever. As we're navigating this school year, the impact that we're going to have on students and their families for the trajectory that this school year is going to take and how we're going to come out, we are part of something way bigger than ourselves. And when we feel a great depth of purpose, that's what drives our resilience. That's what makes us feel like no matter how hard this is, it's worth it because we're part of something bigger. So I hope that we can all find our greater purpose in this school year. Resilience involves three things. First thing is connection. We need to feel a sense of connection with each other, between staff and leadership, between students and educators. Resilience cannot happen without connection. No connection, no resilience. So we need to look at how we can foster connection, which is an especially hard thing when we're doing things online at a distance with masks. It's really hard to keep a sense of connection. So we need to keep a focus this year on what that's going to be. But without that, there will not be academic, social achievement. We need to start with empathy. Empathy, of course, is the path to connection. Without empathy, there's not connection. Because empathy has us ask questions. It has us listen more. It has us be curious about, from your perspective, what does that mean? Or what would that look like from your perspective? So it helps me know you better so that I don't jump to judgment or I don't jump to wrongful assumptions, because I'm getting to know you and I'm getting to hear you, see you from your perspective. We have to do that with each other, and we have to do that with our students and our families, because everybody is going through this in a very different way. The meaning of it to different people is going to be very different. So we need to know those differences. When students show up to us individually, what their experiences are coming from home, from this spring, from this summer, are going to be very unique, just as ours are. So we need to start by listening and coming from an empathic place. And the third thing is optimism. We have to start our year in optimism. Now, I know that sounds kind of, could be Pollyannish. We are facing a year of adversity and overwhelming feeling of how are we ever going to come out of this? Will this ever end? We have a social and political background to all this that's really caught up in negativity. So to say we need to start out optimistic might not sound very realistic. But if we don't start out in a stand of optimism, we're not going to finish the year certainly thriving. You need to trust, we need to trust that we can, one, do this, that we have the agency, the ability, the possibility to absolutely impact how this is going to turn out. We need to think about it kind of like courage. You know, sometimes people say, you know, courageous people don't have fear. Well, that's not true. Courageous people actually have a lot of fear. They feel the fear, but in spite of it, they move forward. Optimism is a lot the same way. Optimism is absolutely with seeing what's the challenge, what's the need, what's the severity, and what the enormity is. I hope we can all see all of that, and I think we do. Optimism is, in spite of that, we can impact how that's going to turn out. And that's the stand I hope that we can start this school year out in, and that we can feel supported for by our leadership and us as leaders of our students and families. So the essence of connection is I see you, you matter, and you belong. As leaders, I hope that's what you're able to convey to the staff. I hope that the staff is able to convey to the leadership, this is what it would look like for us to feel like we are seen for what we're doing. We matter here in what we're doing, and we belong here. Leaders, that's what you're fostering. Educators, teachers, whatever level you're on, that's what you're fostering as leaders of our students. That we are seen, that we matter, and that we belong. So this school year, when we come out of it, we can come out looking like the little boy on the left, or we can come out looking like the boy on the right. Our students, I hope, our goal is that they will come out thriving, and that's what they will feel like at the end of the year. And I hope that as staff, we will also come out looking like the boy on the right. That's our goal and our focus, and it'll take resiliency to do that. So in order to come out thriving and looking like that, we need to think about what's our lifesaver. A lifesaver is what keeps us afloat, what keeps us going, what keeps us replenished so that we can keep moving forward and do what it takes. Kind of like the expression, put your own mask on first. There's new meaning to that this year. We need to put on our own mask first. We cannot take care of our students. We cannot take care of our home, our family, our friends, our relatives if we're passed out on the floor. We have to be energized and we have to take care of ourselves so that we can be fully present to our students, for each other, and to our home lives. So in order to do that, to put our mask on, the mask means that we have to do a lot of self-care. That's going to be even more critical than ever. So we cannot pour from an empty cup. We have to show up re-energized and recharged. And that means physically, it means emotionally, and even socially. Socially hard to do in these times. We need to have an intentional self-care practice. And I'm really inviting everybody to absolutely write down, starting this school year, what's my self-care plan? Write it down, share it with somebody else. I invite you to even get a self-care buddy that they will share with you what their plan is. You will share with them. You can check in on each other. Somewhat accountability, but it's not about being good or bad. It's just about, am I doing it? Am I needing to get back on track? And that can be things like mindfulness practices that really support you. That's self-care. Keeping in mind, mindfulness practices are way beyond just meditation. People think sometimes it's just meditation, but it's way beyond that. So many other practices. I won't go into all the practices. Our faith practice, starting out the day before we leave the house, taking a moment. What's my intention for today? Taking that deep breath, metaphorically or literally, to be able to face the classroom. Mid-morning, what's my practice going to be as a whole new group comes back to school when we're in a hybrid mode? How are we going to face them? How are we going to take that deep breath? And how are we going to be able to re-energize ourselves? I'm going to tease the teachers a little bit. You don't have a good reputation, teachers, for not running on empty. So I want to share just a thought with you. I grew up with a generation that their belief was you can play when the work is done. Well, I remember arguing with my parents, the work is never done. Educators' work is never done. So if you wait to take care of yourself, to do whatever self-care practice is, be it exercise, be it meditation, be it playing, whatever it is, if you wait to do that, you will be going on a depleted tank. So the time you take to self-care is going to make you show up resilient and present and thriving yourself, but supporting the thriving of each other and our students. So three critical things to keep in mind as we're doing that. Three things, so if you're taking notes, write them down so that you remember. And they are, number 1, regulation, number 2, regulation, and number 3, regulation. Yours, mine, and ours. And another word that can go with those is listen, listen, and listen. So my regulation, I need to pay attention. How am I feeling inside myself? What emotions am I dealing with that I need to attend to? Am I feeling whatever ramped up feels for me? Because if I show up that way, my students are going to respond to me that way. So we're going to co-regulate in a way that is not going to be resilient for either one of us. Thinking about other people's regulation, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a principal who has a teacher show up in their office and they have a minor to a major meltdown. Instead of getting dysregulated ourselves, we need to stop and think to ourselves, what's the emotion that's driving the reactivity of this teacher? And just be accepting of that and attend to the emotion, attend to your own emotion so that you don't get ramped up with them. But paying attention, we have to listen to ourselves so that we know what we're experiencing and attend to it. We need to listen to others so we can be more empathic and attend to their emotions. And we need to be aware of how we're co-regulating. And in subsequent training, I'm going to be talking about how that will apply to our students, that co-regulation. Keeping in mind that our students will come out of this only as resilient as we are. They cannot be more resilient than we are. So when we pay attention to those three things, we will stay regulated and manage our emotions. And keep in mind that the number one predictor of well-being currently and or for our future, the number one predictor for well-being for our students when they reach adulthood, number one predictor, research over and over and over, is self-regulation. And translated, that means emotional management. People who can manage their emotions are able to deal with stress, are able to deal with the 5 primary areas and be successful in the 5 primary areas of well-being. So as we think about facing our school year, I want to think about Dr. Seligman from the positive psychology field, which is the study of positive emotion and the scientific study of strength-based therapy and positive education, is PERMA, which is an acronym for positive emotion. We all experience all kinds of emotions on the range from moment to moment, all day long. What we want to be able to experience are the positive emotions as well as the negative, keeping in mind that in the middle of what we're facing, anxiety, depression, worry, frustration, anger, are all going to be very present to us, but can we also access the other side of that, which is gratitude, optimism, perspective that we can keep. How are we going to be able to do that? PERMA is defined by our ability to engage in positive activities, our faith communities, the activities that we feel good about doing and that connect us socially, our relationships. We get reward out of our relationships, be our intimate relationships, family, friends, peers at work, and our relationship with our students. Meaning and purpose. As educators, we have a lot of meaning and purpose in the work that we do, I would hope. Meaning and purpose in our relationships at home and in other areas, and certainly in achievement. Now this year, what we're facing, every one of those are going to be affected. And certainly they're being affected for our families and then our students. And we're going to pay attention to how we can affect that. Accomplishment this year for educators is going to feel very vulnerable. We are starting the school year being called to educating in a way none of us were trained for, that none of us have experience for. So that sense of that I can do this, that I'm confident in what I do, is going to be really kind of vulnerable and shaken. So we need to pay attention to that vulnerability. Students showing up and how they're learning. Parents who are going to be navigating students online and not knowing how to do that. It's going to bring up sense of vulnerability. So we're going to pay attention to all of that by managing our emotions. So Mark Brackett, Dr. Brackett from Yale University, came up with the concept of RULER, which is an acronym for our being able to recognize emotions in ourself, and then emotions in the other person. So when I can pay attention and say, I am feeling, and attend to that, then I can take some control of that feeling. Or that I can notice, I'm thinking that you're feeling, and I can attend to that emotion in some way, whether it's a peer, whether it's in a relationship at home, and importantly here in schools, that we can attend to students' emotions. Because when I can notice what I think your emotion is, I can empathize, reflect that, and see if that's accurate, then I can help you attend to that emotion. and better regulate, and we'll co-regulate. So recognizing emotions in ourselves and others, we need to be able to better understand those emotions, especially what are the triggers for that. What's the trigger for my own emotions so that I can attend to that trigger? It may be that I need to set a boundary with somebody. It may be that I need to ask for something and do more self-advocacy. It may be that I just know it's a vulnerable feeling that's being triggered because of just some of my own vulnerabilities. But I need to attend to that in some way. What I don't attend to will just get bigger. And that's certainly true for students as well, as we're working with our students. And we need to look at the consequences of our emotions when we don't stop and understand them and recognize them, because that's what will have us have a bad moment. You know, kind of if I go in with these feelings to my principal and I express them coming from the place I am right now, consequence, it could cost me my job. So I better think about what I'm feeling, and then I'm going to label it. Now, here's the thing. A lot of emotions are easy to label surfacely. When we look at somebody, we can tell they're angry. Their facial expression looks angry. They're acting angry. Their voice is raised. All kinds of cues that says, you're angry. Yep, you'd be right. But keep in mind, whether it's our own anger or somebody else's that we're witnessing, behind that feeling are at least 3 to 5 other feelings that oftentimes aren't labeled and then aren't attended to. Again, whether that's for us as the adults or as we're going to be interacting with our students. Behind anger is often shame or frustration or a trigger of vulnerability of some kind, or a sense of being called to being seen as incompetent, or just a sense of overwhelm. Whatever it is, those are the feelings behind the surface of anger that we need to identify. So if we don't label it accurately, we don't attend to it accurately. And then we need to learn and know the skills for expressing those emotions appropriately. So as a staff this year, being really attentive to how is it that I can express myself that gets my needs met, that I feel seen, that I matter, that I belong here, whether that's asking that from our leadership or whether the leadership is attending to us or asking from us what they need. We need to find ways to express it. And then we need to find ways to regulate those emotions so that we, again, stay in a place where we are resilient, we don't get polarized, we don't get into negative conversations, and certainly negative behaviors that create a toxic environment. We are completely in control this year if we pay attention to having a resilient environment, a positive culture this year, as opposed to a toxic one. So the idea is, if you can name it, you can tame it. We have a wave coming of emotions that we're going to be dealing with. Let's be really aware of how to name what we're feeling and then be able to manage those feelings. They won't be out of control. Again, starting with us, to have us show up resilient and stay resilient, and certainly when our students show up. Even online, they're showing up to us. How are we managing that? How are we managing the frustration parents will be sharing with us? What we can name, we can attend to, and we can tame. And as we do that, we can practice some generous assumptions. I love that term. Brene Brown uses that term, and it's, I'm going to make a generous assumption. Right now, I can tell you're feeling. Right now, you're being a little bit reactive. Right now, you're just having a moment and letting yourself have those feelings. Or maybe you were a little bit irritable with me, or kind of bit my head off. Whatever it is that we're seeing, we're going to make a generous assumption, starting with that we can assume the better intention. This is just about an emotion right now that you're managing, that I'm managing. We're all managing a lot of emotion, and I'm going to give you some grace and some generous assumption right now that you're having the best of intention. I'm not going to go to the negative assumption. So that we can be kinder with each other and we can be more compassionate, and again, support each other's resilience. And keeping a perspective in mind that life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% is how we react to it. Now, I have to say, in the moment, it feels like COVID is 90%, and our ability to control that is more like 10%, but it's not. COVID and the impact on education on us is the 10%, and it's hard, for sure, but 90% still is how we react to it. So that we can keep a perspective that no matter how enormous that 10% feels, how daunting it is just the 10%, and that we have the power in standing in optimism that how we respond to this will have everything to do with the trajectory that we're going to go on. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, reminds us that forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing: your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. That's the freedom we have showing up this year with each other and for our students. We are definitely pioneers in uncharted territory. We are in the middle, honestly, of a historic event. Historians will write about this time in history. Historians will write about education and the impact that this pandemic will have had. They will write about us. They will write about our response to this. They will write about our resilience to this. So one of the things we want to keep in mind is that we need to help write that story. Don't let that story take us over. We're going to write that story for the historians. So we need to do this together. So we are being pioneers in uncharted territory. We are in an historic event, and we are part of making history. So we need to be the ones to write that story for those historians, and together we can do that, and together it can be a resilient story. Thank you very much.